Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Hi, I'm Terri Long.
And I'm Jeremy Eden, and we are the co-CEOs of Harvest Earnings.
Welcome to the Elephant in the Boardroom.
Hi, everybody, and Jeremy. Happy New Year. This is our first podcast of the year, and we're going to kick off with something that was also in our New Year's resolutions for CEOs, and that is decision-making processes. So we asked CEOs to think about, to ask actually their teams what they think about their decision-making processes. And we know for a fact that the vast majority of employees think decision-making has a lot of room for improvement. And some things like CapEx, usually there's a very formal system, which is good, but has its own challenges. And then some things like, what a call center operator is given the authority to do, maybe that's been decisioned and clear. But there's a whole vast majority in the middle that decisions really flounder. They take too long, they're not made with facts, etc. So, Jeremy, I know you're extremely passionate about this, so let's hear what you have to say.
Okay. And
but first, I apologize for my strange background here. Spending the winter somewhere warm and not in the best setup yet, but to be improved. Okay, now go.
Okay, I thought what you were going to say, so I'll say this. And in full disclosure, this is what we're going to talk about today based on what we do and have done for decades. So it's drawing on our day-to-day experience. So let me start with a story, and I'm going to start with the end of the story. And this is the end of the story that occurs at every client we've been at. The CEO and executive team are assembled for a couple of half-day meetings. They are going to be asked, so I'll take H.J. Heinz in North America as an example. That executive team was going to be asked to make 3,000 decisions.
But actually, I want to argue one little point here. It is often not just a couple of half days. Less people think, how are 3,000 decisions made that quickly? So might be longer depending on the size of the company.
Yeah, but not much. I mean, that was maybe 6 half days, maybe as many as 8 over 2 week 10-day period. So it's pretty,
it's fast.
And of those, and it wasn't really 3,000. They were going to be asked to make 1,500 decisions and approve recommendations for actions to actually be taken. They were going to be asked to say no to 1,400 decisions, no's to things that might have otherwise occurred. And this was now a formal decision not to do it. And then there were about 100 that the teams were not yet ready to ask for a decision. And in that week or 10 days, whatever it was at that size company, the executive team, in fact, did make those 2,900 decisions. And those 2,900 decisions were then tracked, and they could reflect back and would say, they've made the right decisions, they made them very quickly, and most importantly, they made decisions that were material to the shareholder, increasing profits by 30%, while improving the company and investing in the business. So normally when we tell people that there's that kind of speed and accuracy, so I'm not just making decisions quickly, but they're really bad. I'm making huge numbers of really good decisions really quickly and having a great effect on the company. The question is, how is this possible? Because as Terri, as you said, if you go ask the typical employee or senior manager or really anybody in a company, is your company really fast and accurate in making business decisions? They'll pretty much say things that would be a bit disheartening for the leadership to hear. Of course, if the CEO says, what do you think of my decision making? They'll hear great things. But
well, yes, we have talked about this in other podcasts. The CEO might actually not get the truth. Well, and if they get the truth, it will be tamped down significantly.
Right. So the question is, if that's the end of the story, what's the beginning and the middle of the story? Well, I will tell you that the beginning of the story starts 100 days earlier. So this decision making isn't the product of years and years of effort. It's the product of like 100 days of effort, or, maybe a little more. And before I go into not the mechanics of that, but sort of how this can possibly happen, I do want to say that most companies, Terri just said this about, that you just said this about the call center operator. Companies are fabulously good at creating processes of all kinds. If there's a question about how to approve a mortgage, or how to make the packets of ketchup, or how to, change the clothes in a retail store at once a month and to show new fashions, those processes, often companies spend a lot of time and energy thinking about. What they're not good at are decisions to change things and to make sort of ordinary business decisions. They're either big, hairy things that go up to the top, or they're smaller things that are just left to the discretion of someone who's in charge of that area. And they go about making their decisions however, they want. So what is the key to making hundreds or thousands of smart decisions that really grow earnings? I'm going to give an answer, and everyone's going to roll their eyes and start heading for their mouths to turn this podcast off. Don't. Because the answer is, the way to make quick, good decisions is to have easy decisions to make. Well, what is an easy decision? Well, an easy decision is one that everyone agrees is going to make money, including the finance department, who says, yes, it will. We can track it. We know how it's going to work. That it's going to improve the customer, and everyone who touches the customer can say, oh, yeah, that's good. Where it's going to reduce risk, and audit or other monitors of risk can say it's either neutral or it's going to reduce risk. And where if there's an investment, it's going to pay back in a matter of months. Everyone can say, oh, that's good. And finally, where everyone affected by the idea says, yeah, we should do that. It makes sense for this company. I'm on board.
Let me jump in and add to that point, because some people know we say that the 5 words that keep a good executive from being great is I want everyone on board. So then they think, well, then you say everybody has to be on board. But there's a caveat to that, and it is that everyone has to be on board with facts, not politics, not opinions. So if somebody says, I'm not on board, they have to say why, and everybody has to agree that their why makes sense.
Right.
Back to you.
Yes. And that point is very important to the other ones I just made as well, because all those, it will do this, it will do this, it will do this, has to be supported by facts. So if you have an idea with all those criteria, how hard is it for the CEO and executive team to say, yeah, of course we should do it? Who wouldn't want to do those things? So the real trick is, first of all, in the first part of the story and the middle part of the story, how the heck do you find not 3 of these easy ideas or 12 of these easy ideas? How do you find hundreds or thousands of them that are going to dramatically improve profits and make the company stronger? That's one thing. And then the second thing is, it's incredibly important that the decision-making process, in effect, shunt those easy decisions into its own decision-making process that ends up with the executive team at the end of those 100 days. Because what often happens is they get intermingled in every other decision that's being made. And we use this analogy sometimes that if you think of a pipeline and you have little pebbles, they can just rush through that pipeline. But if that pipeline also has rocks and boulders in it, those rocks and boulders could easily block the pipeline, and all those little things that should be able to rush through don't. They just get stuck. And that's what typically happens with all these easy ideas. By the way, easy doesn't mean small. These ideas might be worth $2 million. They might, it's not a matter of size. It's a matter that they fit those criteria. And so you need a special decision-making pipeline. Just like in the call center, there can be special processes for a particular kind of customer, and somebody can make a decision immediately on what the customer is asking for because it gets shunted to the proper channel for that to be made. So we know, and dozens of companies have proven this, that your company, I'm not going to go into parts of the story 1 and 2, that could be topic for another day, but your company has the potential to identify hundreds or thousands of ideas that qualify as easy, not on day 1. It might take up to day 99 for some of these to be declared easy, but they ultimately are easy ideas that can be decided upon quickly and accurately and yield what they're supposed to yield. The end. Jeremy, cue for applause.
Wow. Okay. So yes, as you said, this is what we do, and we have a team who knows how to do this very well, knows how to guide clients through it. Part of what we do and part of what we sell is that once our team shows you how to use our software and how to sort of navigate the politics, because that is a big hurdle, your teams can do it on your own. And it is very, very powerful. Often, I mean, not often, always moves the needle dramatically in terms of earnings. So what would you say are the maybe couple elements that are required for companies to make this work? Not necessarily to hire us but
And just before I answer that, I should also add, there is a morale boost and a feeling of pride when this happens. In part because even though people have said, yes, we're going to do this, and they've gone through 100 days of doing something that appears to lead up to this, it's still kind of shocking when suddenly all these ideas that people had get heard, get approved, money's going to flow, it's going to happen.
So let me answer my own question, at least with one element, and you and I talked about this quite a bit. Our friend Jeff Johnson from Computer Share Loan Services often talked about this as well. He not just admires, but requires his people to have curiosity. So, you always hear the old saying, well, we've always done it this way, which, by the way, I think is a saying that you don't hear that much anymore.
I agree.
Because there's been so much change everywhere that doesn't even exist that much.
I've always used artificial intelligence this way. I remember back in the 1970s.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm sure somebody would say there was a form of artificial intelligence. But anyway, you've got to instill, before you can make decisions, a sense of curiosity in your people to see what even needs to be decisioned. And you said companies are great at making processes, but they aren't great at making great processes. So step 1 to come up with hundreds, if not thousands, of ideas to move the needle and to be decisioned is being curious.
And the good thing about that attribute is it's not that this is a genetically caused attribute and your people either have it or you don't. It's actually easily prompted and easily induced in those that don't naturally have it. So this gives a huge forum for those who are naturally have this and have felt squelched, but it also gives a way for people who aren't natural to it to learn how to become methodically more curious about things. So I would say that the first thing that's important is all decision-making processes or approval kinds of responsibility processes ultimately have to have the strong support of the CEO. Because without that, people will feel that, no, I can do my own thing. And I feel more comfortable doing X or Y or Z or whatever it is. So one is the CEO has to strongly support this and say, I will be at those meetings at the end, along with my team, because this is important to me and I understand why this process makes sense. So that's the first thing.
I think that also from the top of the house, but not just the CEO by any means, anybody who is basically managing has to instill this fact based mentality. And it is much harder than it sounds on the surface, or maybe it doesn't sound easy. I don't know. If you give a hint of allowing someone's opinion to drive a decision and it's not based in fact, then I think much is lost.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because, I mean, you and I talk about this a lot, this asking somebody, how do you know it's true? When they're your boss or your peer or even your subordinate, it feels like you're challenging somebody because you are. But then you have to not just ask the question, how do you know it's true? But push on the answer that you get. Because you will get, I mean, some people will maybe be a bit flustered by it, but, oh, well, I saw it a few years ago, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but is seeing it once, does that mean it's true always? Does that mean it's true now? Lots of times when we're working with companies and ideas, things that there's a portion of it, somebody's opinion that might be true, but then maybe you peel that part out of the idea and do the rest of it. And so pushing to make things fact-based is really important.
And in fact, I don't know if this is exactly true, so don't ask me if this is true. How I know it's true. But I feel like when somebody challenges somebody and says, how do you know that's true? The less actual facts the person has to defend the position they took, the more words and minutes they spend explaining why it's true. That's just my impression.
Yeah,
so when there's this wall of sound and passion, what happens is everyone backs off and goes, oh, okay, I'm not gonna delve further into this. It's precisely when they should delve further into it.
Yeah. We tease my kid because he'll state something and then we'll push on it and he'll say, well, I feel like blah, blah, blah. So it's become a family mantra. Well, I feel like, okay, that doesn't necessarily make it so.
Yeah. And one of the things that's interesting in parts 1 and 2 of this story, which we haven't told, is that the facts are often already known somewhere in the organization. And it's having leaders who have the humility, like Jeff would have, to find out who knows this, who actually knows it. And then if it's not known anywhere, how do we find it out? But, one of the things that's remarkable about all this artificial intelligence that's coming out is the ability for AI to read 10 million documents and remember them all and put pieces together, or 100 million documents and put pieces together. But actually, human intelligence and organization has that same ability. If you got 10,000 people in your organization, the amount of knowledge they have is extraordinary. And it turns out it's not that hard. You don't need AI. In fact, it wouldn't even work in that case, to find those jigsaw pieces that can come together.
Yeah. And on that note, more fun later.
More fun later.
Okay.
Enjoy the warmth.
I will. See you soon. Bye.
Yep. Bye.